All right, welcome back to the Laviacast. I'm your host Laviarray, and I'm here once again with Mayday. Why don't you go ahead and
Hello.
introduce yourself?
Hey, I'm Mayday. I've been on the cast a few times, to fight out for my Lord and Savior Ian Flynn, and I think
Uh-huh.
we might do that again, but maybe not. We'll
We'll
see.
see. So today, right now, it's going to seem like it's more of a discussion for what we've been talking about so far, but it might turn into a bit of debate. So today, we're here to discuss something a little bit around Sonic's characterization. So Mayday, why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit more about it?
Okay, so the thing I really wanted to discuss, I think it's been, I don't know how long this has sort of been in the mainstream sort of fandom discussion, but there's been, right now, it's sort of on everyone's mind, like, is Sonic a hero or not? And maybe to the more periphery audience, people who aren't really into Sonic, who just sort of watch what's going on in the fandom, that might be seem like an obvious question. Like he's obviously a hero. He obviously is. I mean, he does the right thing all the time, and he's blue. And I mean, look at him right now. He's doing the thumbs up, and yeah, obvious hero. But there are a few maybe more niche parts of things that have been said about him, things that he said about himself, that sort of make make people want to ask themselves, like, is Sonic actually a hero, or does he is he like this cool guy who just does whatever he wants? So I started thinking about that lately because especially with the comics, like people have been either really mad about it, or they said, oh, this is perfect Sonic characterization or whatever. So that's what I just wanted to discuss with you today.
All right, certainly. So I think the best place to start with what my answer is to just show this little video game cover, just to really help illustrate that. Just completely irrelevant to what we're talking about here, but I think it's a good place to start. So my position is ultimately, for all intents and purposes, yes, he is a hero. He, in the general colloquial sense, he's not wearing like a super suit, nor is he like basically acting like a vigilante cop. But by general definitions of what people mean, which is they go around beating up people who are looking to hurt others, being malicious towards other people in order to quote unquote save the day. Yes, that is Sonic. Now, I think, and Mayday, I don't think you really disagree with me on this, right?
No, not even slightly. I think
Okay,
yes, the answer is yeah.
so I
He's a
think
hero.
the better place to get into this a little bit is why people end up coming up, try to argue against this position, and where this mindset ultimately comes from. And
Yeah,
the short
absolutely.
answer is Sonic, especially from the Japanese side, likes to try to lean in a little bit more into his shonen roots than it probably should in certain places. And some people, especially when it comes to the comic side of the fandom, like to invoke that in order to try to excuse any type of weird behavior that comes out of his character, which probably can lead us into the other half of the discussion you might want to talk about later. But
Right.
so the general thing, I should have brought this up, but one scene that happens in Sonic X is, oh, I don't remember the exact episode, but basically Sonic's running around and a bunch of people are trying to ask, like, is he bad or is he good? And someone, I believe Rouge at some point goes like, Sonic just goes off on his own whims. He just does what he thinks is right and doesn't really care about it and just does it regardless of how other people are going to react to it or whatever. And I get why they would want to try to do this, especially in Sonic X, because the whole idea in Sonic X, and especially with more of the Japanese characterization, they tend to try to lean more to him just being this aloof force of nature that is com- almost mysterious to a certain extent, and they just try to play and having his morality or his worldview be more based on his own personal sense of right, a more personal sense of what he wants out of life versus a general standard helps to add on to the idea that he's more of a rebel and more of a free spirit than being held down by anything in particular. Um, you follow me so far?
Oh yeah, for sure. Can I say something on that?
Shoot.
Yeah, no, I would say that, yeah, a lot of where this in the fandom right now, I think that that sort of comeback where people want Sonic to be like this aloof, almost like cryptid, right? Or like who knows like what he'll do next? Like he's unpredictable. He lives by, and it's cool as well. You know what I mean? It's sort of like that skater boy kind of. I do what I want. I don't go by the rules. Anti-establishment type aesthetic that Sonic's got going on. But the problem with that, or maybe it's not an issue, but it's like Rouge can say that. She can say, "Oh, Sonic just does whatever he wants." You know, so one day he might do this, and one day he might do that. But like 99.999% of the time, what Sonic quote unquote wants to do, the things that he just does it just because he feels like it, is gonna be 99% aligned with like traditional morality. You know what I mean? He's like he wants to like save people and help people, even when it's like maybe inconvenient, even if it gets him hurt. He's gonna do like the right thing. Sonic can be count. You can count on Sonic to do the right thing. So to me, saying that, like the words Sonic isn't a hero, he's like a drifter, it rings a bit hollow. You know what I mean? So I
Mhm.
think that's sort of where I come from. And I think maybe you kind of agree with that.
No, I ultimately do, or at the very least, I get why people want that. Honestly, and this might be the place we can disagree. The reason why I think that's incredibly moronic, because moronic to try to write him as that kind of character, is because there are two ways you can go about this. Two ways you can go about this, and it's so context depending on what's going on in story that it's not really worth it in Sonic right now. So there's one way you can go about it, which is one of the places I've seen this be the most notorious, which is in One Piece. In One Piece, I actually have it right here. The main character has literally had a speech about him going, "I am not a hero." Like a hero, I am not a hero. Forget it. We are heroes. We're pirates. I like heroes a lot, but I don't want to be one. Pirates eat meat and have big parties, but heroes take meat and give it to the poor people. I want to eat meat. And Zora down here is basically doing the same thing about drinking booze, because the whole idea about them is that they want to prioritize what they want out of life. They want to make sure that they are satisfied. They don't want to have to like worry about like everybody else first. And while this does sound silly, there is a little bit of maturity coming out of this, where the whole idea is that they do understand uh, what it means to ultimately be a hero and all the responsibility that comes with that, and they don't want that. Now, the joke is in One Piece that they are basically heroes
Yeah.
for all purposes. While the Straw Hats are written to more or less have chaotic, neutral dialogue and how they end up carrying themselves, Oda ultimately writes them to be the most chaotic good characters ever fucking exist. Like
Hmm.
the whole joke that's been going on for at least the last couple of years is that Luffy will basically liberate an entire fucking country, beat up every last bad guy and fascist and dictator to ever exist on that place, and completely change it all for the better as long as you give him like a bowl of rice, or if you just give him like something basic, he'll do it. And something basic because he understands that that person is his friend now. He does anything for his friends, even to the point of putting his entire life on the line in order to make sure that they can live in a place that is completely substantial, that can ultimately not abuse them. But the problem is there is still a through line for why they want to do how this is supposed to work. You get this where they still have that dialogue, but Oda is smart enough to know how to make sure that these characters don't come off like complete selfish douchebags. This is the other side of that equation, because if you do try doing the whole like, "Oh, I'm not a hero, I just do what I want," and you don't give it like proper grounding for like what the motivation of the character is supposed to be going for, how they're supposed to function, you don't get this. You get Surge. You get characters who are who are not the most free. They're not the most rebellious. They are objectively slaves to the plot. And since they have nothing really to work for, the only thing that they can do is fuck up other people's plans and not have anything positive contribute in the first place. And that's the reason why whenever I see people try to evoke the whole like, "Oh, Sonic will, it doesn't matter what is going on, even if the whole world's against them, Sonic will ultimately fight." I'm like, for what? Like, what is he doing that's ultimately going to make it that would have the whole world turn against him in the first place? Why would that be an issue? Like, it makes sense for One Piece because they're pirates and the world government is incredibly awful and thinks that anyone who even considers themselves to be a pirate is an enemy to them, and they will just wipe them out no matter what. that makes sense in One Piece. It doesn't make sense to try to evoke that in Sonic, other than to try to aim for the aesthetic of being rebellious and not having anything to back it up. You know?
No, I agree. See, um, in One Piece, I don't read One Piece. You know, I'm a big
You,
One
I'll correct you if
Piece
you get something wrong.
skeptic. Yeah, I guess I can, but in that sense, it sounds maybe like they do follow up on that, or but actually, I don't know. I would say it feels like Oda is maybe trying to have his cake and eat it too a little bit, where he's like, okay, if you give Luffy something, if you give him like you can say, okay, Luffy's gonna like risk life and limb. He's going to like break his body. He's gonna throw himself in front of like anything that is like trying to hurt the people that like he finds himself in front of, and he will do all of that as long as you give him like a chicken wing at the end of that. You know what I mean? So that feels like Oda's like, okay, see, they gave him the chicken wing, so him doing all these very heroic, very self sacrificial things, right? Then it's like fine, it's not being generated. No, he's not a hero. It's not being generated from like some sense of like goodness or like wanting to like do what's right by like the people around him. No, it's because he wants chicken or something. You know what I
No, no,
mean?
no. Honestly, I get where you come from. I get where you're coming from about how it seems like Oda's trying to have his cake again too. He's weirdly not. Honestly, if anything, uh, his whole Oda's whole thing is that as much as he does try to set up this world as absolutely fucking awful, like just completely miserable, you would no one should ever pick. I want to live in the world of One Piece if they had to choose a fantasy world. It's awful. He generally tries to write all of his characters, especially the Straw Hats, as the most goofy, silly, fun, good natured characters to ever exist. Like they try to like that's the thing. This is not meant to while this is meant to show like yes, the characters are ultimately kind of selfish. The thing is that Oda constantly makes sure that he frames them, puts them in a situation that frames his mindset as the most morally good thing possible. Like and Wano's a really good example. Um Luffy's whole thing is that he originally comes to this country in order to be Kaido, because he knows that in order for him to become the king of the pirates, he needs to take down the four emperors of the sea, in order to make sure like no one else is in his way, so he can end up getting the One Piece and becoming the Pirate King. But
Right?
when we get to the island, he ends up more or less stumbling into this one girl who's being starved by pretty much everyone who's running this country, including the people under Kaido, just so they can end up keeping control of the goddamn place. And she ends up giving him a bowl of rice because he was like begging and starving because he had nothing else to go for. She gave him that one bowl of rice that was basically her last bowl, and he ends up understanding this and gets a bunch of other motivation on top of that. But one of the core things that motivates him to want to beat Kaido isn't just for his own sense of self. It's also because like he ended up bonding with this little girl, especially when he found out that she was also huge, a big, when she was also friends with his big brother. And through
Hmm.
all this stuff, he ends up going like, you know what? No, we are going to go ahead and save this place. And all the Straw Hats basically get like a moment like that where it's just like, no, I'm going to fight for this place too. And that happens basically like every arc. Like they are the epitome of the bunny eared lawyer trope, where it's like, yeah, they are technically pirates, but they never rob. They have they've only throughout the entire series they've only robbed one place, and that was a place that had one place that had that not only had no value in gold and didn't even really see the point of using it. They were actually going to give them even more gold before they ended up stealing what they had and booking it. So they are more pirates in name only. Like they travel the world in the ship on the ocean. They are going place to place. They do end up fighting the world government 99% of the time, but it's never just out of, oh, I don't like the cut of your jib. It's always like, oh no, you kidnapped one of our friends. Oh no, you are looking to try to blow this place up. That's a home of our friend, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what ends up making and it's okay in that case, because while they don't call themselves heroes, because like I said, they understand the responsibilities that come with it, they inevitably are. Like the funny part about like this whole thing about pi- uh but heroes take meat and give it to the poor. Literally during Wano, when he ends up finding out that everyone in that town that is being starved, he ends up going to the nation's capital of that place, finds a bunch of the corrupt people there, beats them up, takes the food and brings it back to the poor place, to the poor city. And that's just Luffy. That's just how he works. There's a bit more nuance in how it's going for, but that's ultimately how it's executed in One Piece. And I wouldn't mind something similar in Sonic to a certain extent, but I don't think it's really necessary, because at the end of the day, there's no reason for him to do the whole "I'm not a hero" bit, unlike them, who are meant to be calling themselves pirates. So so that's the thing where I'm just like, I think this kind of line really works here, but it doesn't really benefit or work well with Sonic. I think this is evoked a lot within fan bases, not in the fan base, not only because they want to, because they really want to latch onto that aesthetic of kind of seeming a bit aloof and dark, when it's really not, and honestly not that applicable in like 90% of Sonic's interpretations. It also just doesn't work because Sonic doesn't have any, because like wait, sorry, rewind. It also gets invoked a lot because a lot of people also just want to have him be this nebulous character that you don't really have to criticize any of the stupid shit that he ends up doing. Like, I came across that argument a lot about Sonic not being a hero during the Metal Virus arc, where people were trying so hard to justify a lot of the stupid stuff that he was doing during that arc, and they've been invoking that in the process. And I think you said that you ended up seeing that stuff too from IDW critics, and I think that was usually invoked when people were trying to defend the idea
Issue
of Sonic having
50
no.
type
Yeah,
stuff.
when people were trying to invoke like how Sonic doesn't have a no kill rule, or with issue 50.
Yeah.
Wait, hold up. Okay, why were they invoking that with issue 50?
Okay. So issue 50, I think that the presentation of people that really got on people's nerves, because it was like Sonic was literally standing like bathed in a ray of light, like saying, "Surge, my child, listen to my system of like morality, okay? Listen to my gospel of like how I love freedom, and freedom is the best, and how I want to make sure everyone is free, and how I'm a hero and how I'm the best." And he's smugly looking down on her, right? So, and the arguments that I heard back then was that Sonic isn't a hero, and well, not only that he's not a hero, but that he doesn't see himself in that way. I saw like the line, like the clip from like Sonic and the Black Knight. I remember that being posted around, where it's like, what did he say again? He was
Oh,
like,
I can't be the hero all
yeah,
the
I
time.
can't be the
Which
good guy all the
you
time. I
cannot.
can't be
With
the good time all the time.
anyone who tries invoking that any context outside of Black Knight shows that they don't understand what they're reading or how that game works. I don't like the media literacy argument, but it's like that only makes sense in that context. You can't invoke that anywhere else. If anything, that works against you in most cases. But
Exactly. It's like, oh, I can't be the hero all the time. I just have to save this little girl instead of like killing like what's it like basically like the Mussolini of like this world or whatever. This incredibly morally ambiguous action. If I save this little girl, what a terrible thing I'm doing. I don't even know if it's like the right thing to do or not. I can't be the hero all the time. Where like clearly he's like doing the right thing based on like probably anyone who is like aligned with traditional morality would say you should save the little girl. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and issue 50, I do agree that is like, I can rip into that that scene a lot, especially because I know why Flynn wrote him like that. But no, that scene is not stupid. Isn't stupid because Sonic is not a hero, doesn't see himself to be one. It's just stupid because that entire scene was stupid, not just because of presentation. But that's a different conversation we can get into later. But
right,
the
right.
whole point is, yes, Sonic is a hero, not just because he has a game named Sonic Heroes, but it's just because literally in every interpretation outside of like 90% of his interpretations does show him always trying to do the right thing, always trying to save people, always trying to take down bad guys, etc., etc. The few times that they try to have him say something that shows like he's like more morally like, oh no, I just do what I want, I don't really do that kind of stuff. It's not a good sign to show that he isn't a. It's not a good sign in any context to prove that he's not a hero. So I don't think there's any weight to that argument in the first place. I
Exactly.
do
I
think
think,
it
and I also, oh, sorry, can I say one thing?
should.
I also think it's kind of telling that like every time like someone says Sonic's not a hero, he's not, I promise, he's not a hero. Like there's two things that I've seen. It's like either it's like the one clip from Sonic and the Black Knight where it's Sonic talking about himself, or it's like I didn't know this one existed. It's like a Sonic One manual or something when Sonic said, "I'm not a." You want to hear the exact line? You want to
Shoot,
hear it?
shoot.
All right. So I said, "Sorry for being impertinent. You're all talk, and that's not good. I'm not doing it for justice. I'm only doing it because I love to. However, I'll never betray you." And that was in a manual somewhere, and it was never translated to English. Apparently, it was just like in a Japanese manual. So
Okay.
it's like I think it's kind of telling that like that's what people need to point to instead of Sonic actually doing something or actually doing something morally ambiguous, right? Or like
Or
that's
yeah,
unhero like, right?
story overrides manuals every single time. We're not the manuals can give some context sometimes, but if there's a contradiction between what's going on in the story versus what's going on in the manual, story trumps manual. Like who we don't even make manuals anymore. Why even use that as a reference point for something like this?
No,
Um,
I'm sorry, but
yeah. So yeah,
yeah,
no.
but
I think that kind of handles that discussion. But I think you had like a different argument. I thought you different discussion you wanted to get to. Unless you
wait,
had
could I
something else.
actually I have like a few points that I wrote down on this. So do you
Shoot,
mind if I maybe go through them before we get to
oh, yeah,
the next discussion, which
shoot.
might expand a lot? So one thing I wanted to say is I had an argument with someone. I'm not gonna say their name, not because I'm gonna throw like mad shade or whatever. They seem like cool people, whatever, and I appreciate like arguments and all that. But just because I don't want to bring controversy towards someone who's like not looking for that kind of smoke, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
one thing that I heard was that Sonic, see, I think the Sonic does what he wants. Like he doesn't do it because of like society tells him to, or because of like morals or whatever, or ethics or anything like that. He does it because he wants to. Um, and that to me just doesn't really make any sense because I feel like that pretty much describes having morality. You know what I mean? If okay, so if Sonic's morality is like not generated from like what he's seen, it's generated from his mind or something. It's generated from his heart or something, right? And what his heart wants is to do the traditionally moral thing. Then that seems like it's just a roundabout way of like getting to that he just is a hero. He what Sonic does with whatever he wants, okay? And what he wants is to do the nice, cool, good boy thing. You know what I mean?
hmm
So to me, that doesn't really follow. That doesn't really make much sense to me. Okay, so do you have anything you want to say about that, or should I move on to my next point?
You can move on. I have nothing to add.
Yeah, yeah. Um, okay, here's something we might fight on. So I know you're not saying that they really need to bring in the moral ambiguity for Sonic. I think we both agree that that's never really been his character, and that's something that's been said, but it's never actually been like presented like through something meaningful through his actions. You know what I mean? Him being like this morally ambiguous like drifter, right? He's sort of always been presented as like this traditional hero, which is fine. Um, but I would say, from looking at it, or it's like an ironic thing I noticed because um, now that you mention it, I do remember a lot of IDW fans like defending issue 50 like that. Oh, Sonic doesn't kill because he's not a hero because he's the wind. Sonic is the wind. Because do you see this 2 minute clip from Sonic and the Black Knight, and this like proves my entire argument. I do remember that. Um, but today, right now, what I am personally seeing in I guess my social media world is a lot of people saying Sonic shouldn't be a hero. It's so much cooler when he's like not a hero, and I would agree in some ways. But I would say if I believe that like Sonic has never been presented with any sort of moral ambiguity, I would honestly say that Ian Flynn with that issue 50, that was like the first time that this I'm not a hero, I'm not a traditional hero was actually validated in like an actual piece of media with actual actions. You know what I mean? Him
Honestly,
actually,
no,
yeah, go
no,
ahead.
hold up. I got to push back on you right now. No, if anything, the problem is this is, if anything, a bastardization of what people think superheroes act like. That's what the problem comes in. That's kind of what the problem is. So Sonic has never officially had a no kill rule. Like, yeah, Eggman's always around, but it's Team Rocket rules. They keep him around because he's the franchise villain. Now you can't get rid of him, and that was fine. But the whole problem with IDW in particular is that especially with Flynn, is that they're trying to find a way to explain why Sonic does not explicitly deal with it, does not explicitly try to either take down or put Eggman in prison forever, and
Yes.
Flynn ultimately tries to go with this mindset. The thing is, this isn't too dissimilar from what people try to do with like Batman or Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, hell, even Daredevil, when they try to give these characters no kill rules. The problem and the reason, and here's the thing, all those characters have gotten their own flack from fan bases for that stuff in the first place as well, for much worse reasons. But the reason why it doesn't work in IDW is because there's no core principle behind it that actually makes any kind of sense. Because as much as Flynn is trying to say, oh, he's trying to stick to his core principles, his core beliefs, he doesn't have any. We just kind of say he just wants to, he doesn't want to kill people because he values freedom. But then that's where um, I'm trying to remember the exact term for it, but basically uh, the contradiction of freedom comes in. You can't, if you want people to be free, you can't allow people who are looking around to try to restrict, who are looking around to restrict the freedom of others. It's the contradiction of intolerance is another way to put
Lawrence,
it.
yeah, yeah.
You can't, if you're looking to be tolerant, have as tolerant of place as possible, you can't allow other people who are looking to be intolerant to function in that society. Or to put another way, you can't allow not if you want your place to be as functional as possible, you can't allow Nazis. So when you end up trying to invoke that problem here, they just kind of want to go, "Oh, Sonic doesn't want to put down Eggman because he believes in freedom." But it's like, if you believe in freedom, why are you allowing the guy who clearly wants to enslave all of you to function? Slave all you to function, and in particular, why are you trying to apply all this mindset in the first place? And they don't have an answer for it because Flynn just kind of invoked this in haphazardly because he just wants to be meta, but doesn't understand why you need to do that kind of shit in the first place. That's the core reason why it was a dumb idea to why was a core reason why it was a dumb idea to do this idea in the first place, and to
Okay,
get
wait,
to
wait, wait.
oh yeah.
Can I stop you? Okay. I I don't know. See, I want to talk maybe not maybe one someday or maybe later about like the execution of the the whole Sonic doesn't kill or his own spin on it because I agree it's very similar. Or it's got sort of aesthetic, sort of surface level similarities to the Batman and like Spider-Man type things. And I think that it functions like narratively, like that was the reason it was invoked as like an explanation, like it does. Like many writers before have done that, like Batman writers, like Spider-Man writers, etc., etc., Superman writers. Um, but I don't know if I want to get into the execution, how well it was executed right now. All I'm saying is that I think that regardless of how you feel about it, I would say that it was actually brave and it was actually morally ambiguous because we're literally talking about it. Is it like a good thing for like Sonic to
Hold on,
let his enemies go? Wait, hold on. I think that we're having a discussion about it. It was literally controversial. It was actually not the very clear right thing to do. You know what I mean?
okay, no,
And
hold on.
I think that if we're saying that Sonic isn't a hero, that's actually like the only time that that's actually been followed up on. That's like this is it. It might be bad, it might be good, maybe, but like it was actually an attempt to actually put Sonic somewhere in the moral gray, which I respect.
Okay,
So, all right,
here's the
you go
problem
ahead.
though. No, here's the
Go ahead.
problem. This shit. Here's the problem though. Flynn didn't add this in to make him morally gray. This is honestly one of the dumbest ways to make someone morally gray. If your whole idea, if the whole concept, because the whole reason to have a character be morally gray, first off, I don't even know what would be the benefit of making a character like this morally gray in the first place, other than just to do it for the hell of it. But the whole point about doing this is because they're trying to show that he is being principled. He is not trying to kill people, because he does want to actually try to be something resembling good. There's no reason to that's one of the reasons why I said in the previous episode that the series seems to big brain itself into the negatives, because it takes a massive jump to try to give a character a no-kill rule and actually make that seem like it's supposed to be, and actively invoke that in a way that just makes it come off as negative, as a bad idea as possible. Because every other superhero series, most superhero series do try to evoke that. Batman, Superman, Spider-Man have all tried to do that to a certain extent too. But they usually try to make sure that they frame it as being a good thing as possible, unless some cynical assholes on for 5 seconds to try to feel like they're doing a deconstruction so they can feel deep about it. That's not why this is here. There's no benefit of doing that here other than to work backwards to maybe try to make him seem, other than to try to do that to make it seem like it's being morally gray. But they're not doing that here to make it morally great. The whole point is that they are trying to make it seem like it's a good thing. They're just really bad at it.
I get where you're coming. Okay, I get where you're coming from, and I think that the framing probably would validate like that argument, because it is literally Sonic bathed in the light of God, like talking down to Surge in the darkness. I get where you're coming from. It does seem like it's being framed as a good thing. But the way I saw it, especially with the cover, I don't know. I'm not going to ask you to pull it up because it might take a while. But if people remember, I think that it might have been issue 50 itself, that the cover was literally the cameras behind Surge and Sonic standing on top of this mountain, like looking down on her. To me, that was framed like a villain shot, where like it's like the hero standing up. They get up and they're battered and they're standing up against the villain, where Sonic is like framed as like he's looking down from the mountain down on Surge with like this smug look in his face. I don't know, and that to me, that sort of seemed like it was, and especially like the surrounding context of this scene, where it's not. I don't think it is presented like Sonic is right. It's literally Surge makes a good point where she's like, "Yeah, and look, everything you're doing is like leading to all this pain, leading to all this misery for me." Especially like in the later issues when Sonic gets more context, right? Um, I think it's just saying that this is how Sonic feels. This is what he believes. It's not good or bad. It's just like this is what he's gonna do. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, I really like this shot, and I
But
might even
here's the
believe with.
thing. This is working against our core agreement in the first place. And this is why I honestly say most of the ideas that they try evoking at IDW are moronic. Like, go back to One Piece. Going back to One Piece for a second.
Go ahead.
Like I said, they're supposed to be pirates. The whole thing about pirates is that they go around robbing, pillaging, just absolutely making life worse for everybody else. And 99% of the pirates not 90%, but most of the pirates, especially the ones that are in the background, do this all the time. That's supposed to be the main core thing of the series. But Oda does not frame them like that. Does not frame the Straw Hats, and honestly, most of the pirate crews that we end up seeing, that we don't see Luffy and Co fighting against, he never frames it like that. They're usually shown as being forces of good, more or less forces of good in the world. They're usually ones that are like, oh yeah, we'll go around protecting you guys from all like the corrupt world government. We'll make sure everything is safe. We have parties and keep everyone happy and fun and jovial. Which I'm pretty sure the end of the series is going to be about them questioning, about answering what in this universe what being a pirate is ultimately supposed to mean. When it comes to but the thing is, they could easily do the exact same stuff you're talking about here in IDW with these guys. But the thing is, Oda, and I mean this as much as I can, Oda's not an idiot. There's no benefit of trying to make your character, especially the 3-foot tall hedgehog that in all of his interpretations is supposed to be the good character, is supposed to be the good quote unquote hero, and have them do stuff like this unless you're willingly looking to just be as self-destructive and moronic about the story as possible. There's no yes, you can try to say, oh, it's really interesting to try to do this. No, it's not. It's just them it's them big braining into the negatives. Like, to put it this way, let's say they make a story about Sonic beating the absolute crap out of Cream. Should I give them credit for that?
Uh,
It's
it's hard to answer. I don't know if
no,
it
no, no,
was
no,
it
no, no,
was
no, no,
if it
no. Why
was
is that hard to answer?
entertaining.
No, 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 no.
Wait.
Why is that hard
If
to
it
answer?
was
What context would it be a good thing to see the main character beating the crap out of a 6-year-old?
if it was entertaining to know. Wait, hold on. Look, I'm
No,
saying I
why
don't
would
know.
that
You
be?
can say we can. If it was like if it was interesting. I don't know if it
No,
was
no,
like
no. What context would that even remotely be interesting? Why would you want to see Sonic? What would be beneficial about seeing Sonic beat the not
okay.
just like fight like little game or something? I mean,
Wait,
literally
hold
beating
on,
the
hold on,
crap out.
wait. But wait. Are you saying the bad thing about that is that it's inconsistent, or the bad thing about it is that it
It's a
would
stupid
be
idea.
like
That's the
sort of
reason.
reprehensible to
No, it's a
watch? It
stupid
would
idea. That's the reason why.
stupid. Okay, but that's I don't know what that means.
It's
Like stupid how? Like how specifically? How's that stupid? Right?
okay. What were we just agreeing on
If
at the beginning?
it Sonic is a hero, he is a
Okay.
hero. I agree.
Why would we want to see
So it's inconsistent then. It
what's the
would
whole
be
point about being a hero? What's at the end of the day, what's the core thing about being a hero?
he's a good guy and he does good things and he doesn't beat up little girls. Sure.
So
So
why
you're
would we
saying
want to
it would be
see a
bad. So you're
hero
saying
be
it. Oh, wait.
okay.
Hold on. You're saying it would be bad because it would be inconsistent. Is that what you're saying? So that it wouldn't like match
No,
anything of his previous
inconsistent is
behavior.
no. Inconsistent is putting it lightly. It's a moronic thing to do because it works against everything about itself. The core problem I've always had about IDW, and Flynn's writing in particular, is that he never really sets on what his core premise of his stories are supposed to be. What is it looking to try to? What is the story meant to be about? What are you looking to say? Like, as much as I've ripped into Sonic Prime, and I will continue to do so if they do get their season 4, because I don't see it like magically getting better. I will always respect Sonic Prime way more than IDW because Prime knows what the premise is supposed to be about. It knows what it wants to do and actually puts that stuff in order to try to say something about the character, about the setting, etc. Does it do it well? No. Does it mess up a lot of things in order to get to that premise? Absolutely. But it knows what it's actually going for. Flynn's works, especially IDW overall, has a problem of just trying to throw in random shit for the hell of it. Like when it comes to this story, like this is the reason I said that if you end up trying to have a character be as morally gray and nebulous as possible, you don't get Sonic, you get Surge, because Surge has this problem of just kind of yo-yoing back in her motivation all the time because the writers have no idea what they want to do other than just she's here to fuck crap up, but they don't have an idea about what Sonic's arc is supposed to be, what his motivation is supposed to be for the story, what they're ultimately looking to explore. Like, as much as you're trying to say, like, oh, it's really interesting that they did this here, they never follow this up. They end up like literally in the arcs after this, he's still trying to be the good guy, going around saving people and take stuff down. Honestly, you could, outside of just having those IDW characters, you can jump from the end of Forces to basically like the beginning of the Urban Warfare arc or even the end of it and not lose much, because nothing about his character ultimately changes. This is the weird anomaly, and there's no benefit to this anomaly other than to just go, see, Sonic can be morally gray because he's not 100% for the idea of like putting down his villains. And that's what ends up getting really funny about this, because you don't need to frame this like a bad thing, because here's the thing, like Luffy, because Luffy, as much as he's going around beating up bad guys, we don't see him looking to try to kill all the bad guys. We don't see him looking to try to put all of them in jail, because he's not a cop. He's a pirate. Same thing could easily apply to Sonic. He's not a hero. He is a hero, but he's not a cop. He's not someone who's just looking to go around and go, like, you did a bad thing, I'm going to put you in prison. We don't need that from them. If anything, that's one of the core reasons why I also think that in-universe is a stupid decision, because I don't need to see Sonic trying to go around trying to arrest people and put them in prison or kill. I don't need to see Sonic get a body count. You can just have cops in universe who come out of the and clean up his mess. That's all I really
Wait,
need.
can I say something?
Dude,
Sorry, you've made a lot of points, and I
sorry.
want to
Yeah,
like go through them. Yeah. No, you're good. But okay, so just slowly, I want to defend myself a
all
little
right, go
bit.
for it.
I don't want to just leave that hanging. It's okay to beat up a little girl or
Dude,
something.
come
No,
to
yeah,
come to
yeah. I just want to say Okay. Here's a question I could ask. Would it be a good writing choice to have Spider-Man kill a woman? And okay, so and you don't have to answer that. It's a rhetorical question
Well, I can answer
because
that. I can answer that. If
wait, no, hold on. I need to speak.
okay,
I
shoot.
need to speak. Okay. So this did happen. Okay. And the people might be like, no, this will be a terrible choice. It'll be inconsistent. And it'll be horrible. It'll be reprehensible. That's maybe, but the context around it, Spider-Man did. He killed a woman. He punched her right in her face. Okay. And the context of that is he was having a fight with Wolverine. Okay. His spider sense was going crazy. They were like going at it. And he threw a punch behind him, thinking that Wolverine could take it. And it ended up being this woman. And the thing is that it wasn't just that. This woman wanted it to happen. She kind of tricked him. She tricked his spider sense. And she was pretty much like a almost like suicide by cop. Okay. So that would be the context of that. So on its face, any premise that would sound stupid to me. I would be like, Spider-Man killing a woman. No, he doesn't kill. He doesn't. This is everything that's like the opposite of what Spider-Man is. But like when you like in context, like I can buy it. I can buy into it because it's a lot more complicated. So I don't agree.
So here's the thing.
Um,
No, I want to hold up real quick.
wait,
So
can I just like finish my point? I just want to
shoot.
say I I don't agree with just like looking at something on his face, like saying, "Oh, Sonic punching brutally, spin dashing a 6-year-old would be a terrible idea." On his face, I don't know. If I'm being honest, I can't say yes or no. That would be bad. I don't want to, but because I'm not willing to do like moral dumbfounding where I'm like, obviously it'd be bad because it's obviously he would never hurt Cream because I don't know. And it could be
Okay,
interesting. If I'm being totally honest, I have no idea. So
okay. So
that's
here's the
why.
thing. The reason why, first off, if we're
Mhm.
just talking about the reason why I'm so easy to just say no to the to go back to your original question, do I
Mhm.
think it's okay for what would I think about a story about Spider-Man accidentally punching and killing a woman?
Sure.
That's a little too vague for my whole thing. The reason I said Cream in this situation is because I'm trying to give context about like who the character is because there is no reason because for how Sonic is generally defined as a character and how Cream is generally defined as a character, there is no reason or benefit to put them in, and unless you got to add in a bunch of context, there's no real reason to have them fight in the first place. And honestly, and how much context you would have to add in order to get that to make sense would to get that to even remotely make sense. I don't even get how that would be the benefit, how that would be beneficial, what we need to show about the character to do that in the first place. Same thing goes for that situation. Like you keep saying, like, well, the context for Spider-Man punching that woman is like really fascinating stuff. I'm like, what? Like, I'm
Wait,
not like,
no, wait. I never
what's
said
the
it was fascinating.
story? What's
Oh,
the
but
story?
it did serve his character, maybe.
Huh?
I never said it was fascinating. I'm only saying that on its face, it's Spider-Man killing a woman. That is what it is. It's him punching a woman in the face. But when you add the context, when you like add
What's
everything going on around it, you realize
Look,
that on its face,
context?
maybe it
What's
wasn't
the
that bad,
context?
huh?
What was the story that Spider-Man ended up punching? They ended up punching her. What was the context of that story? What ultimately comes out of that story in particular?
Spider-Man, okay, he feels really bad about it. And like in his stories after that, he like is still reckoning with this woman that he killed. He's like, it was all my fault. I should have
Oh, then I would. Oh no, thank you for that context. My answer is definitely no. One of the problems I've had with Spider-Man as a character is how much they get, not only for how much they just try to torture the poor kid, but how much the story just kind of how much that comic series just loves to make him suffer and miserable. And there's a point where I'm just like, look, I'm not against this kid. I'm not saying he should never have any problems whatsoever. I'm 100% fine with him having problems, but I need him but there is no benefit of constantly just adding on more and more suffering just for the sake of him becoming more insecure, more second guessing himself all the fucking time. Like that's one of the reasons why I am one of the few people that hates No Way Home. Like I'm fine with like the three Spider-Man hanging out, but I hate literally everything else about that goddamn movie because I don't need to see another story about trying to put Spider-Man back on context and removing everything that made the MCU Spider-Man distinctive and made him his own character in the first place just to get him back on brand. I
Sure, but
so to get it back to
wait, can
here.
I say one thing? Can I say one thing about that
Shoot.
story? If I remember correctly, that story when they took what happened with him and Wolverine and him punching that lady in the face, that was used as like a framing device, something that happened in his past, for him to learn to forgive himself. So it was used for something that I think you would find more agreeable. It was him saying, "Okay, this wasn't actually my fault. It was an accident. Okay, and all I can do is move forward and try to make sure that never happens again." You know what I mean? You
Hold
know
on.
what?
No, if anything, I'm actually getting more frustrated by this story. First off, if we're going to go ahead and do, like, I actually do think that needs to be a theme within Spider-Man's story in the first place. But that needs to be done with his guilt around Uncle Ben, not this random woman. Honestly, this is definitely more his fault. And honestly, if I had to do this story, I still wouldn't. But the story should be more about how he needs to be more he needs to be more careful about how he uses his abilities in the first place. But I'm also just kind of like going like, how did she trick him, or even to get to your point, to what you were talking about, does Spider-Man even find out that he got tricked? Like, why do we like
He
what are
did.
we
He saw her. He saw her body. Well, she was alive for a little bit longer. I think that she, if I remember correctly, she like explains like, "Oh, I did it. I just wanted to die," and blah 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 blah. And then she dies in Wolverine's arms. So he knows
that's
what
no
happened,
no no
but he
no
still
fuck,
blames himself.
honestly, you were pissing me off with this story. No, fuck that bitch.
What?
If she
Why?
wants to kill herself, don't no. If she wants to kill herself, don't bring someone else into that mess. Don't bring someone else into that mess. Like, again,
Oh yeah.
like, this is also like, this is one thing about my view about storytelling around characters in the first place. I am 100% for challenging characters on their weaknesses and behaviors, but it should come from their from their action, their positions, not from them getting tricked by someone else. Because if that is the case, that she was just like, no, I put myself in the way because I just wanted to die and I thought it'd be best place. Bitch, don't make someone else responsible for your death. That's just putting their trauma, taking your trauma and putting it on them. Fuck you. Like, no, if I want to go, like I said, if you want like so when it comes to the core point about Spider-Man learning to forgive himself and not have this weird, almost God complex and feeling this need of responsibility for every last person and feeling like he has to be on constant guard all the fucking time. I am 100% for doing a story like that. That needs to. I am honestly for that. I'm tired of the whole him feeling like he has to be on guard all the fucking time because of Uncle Ben. I'm 100% fine with that. It should come from him either understanding the consequences of having that mindset in the first place, or ultimately getting some proper context and proper context from everything around the Uncle Ben situation. Not invoking someone else, basically making him responsible for for their own murder. Like, no. And to bring this back around, the reason why I brought up Sonic beating up Cream is because Sonic is meant to be basically the fun-loving action protagonist, and Cream is the 6-year-old, cute, soft, wants everything to be cotton candy and sweetness little girl. There is no good context. There's no good context just in story as is why these two should even be fighting. And even if you end up getting to the point of trying to build up to that story for why Sonic would be beating up this little girl, there are about 90 different things you can do to actually make that whatever story or beat that you're trying to say on that story. I guarantee you there are like 90 different ways you can get that point without having to bend so far backwards to break these characters just to put them into that situation.
Yeah, yeah, wait. I think I would agree with you. Okay. Just for my this as a preferential thing, I think Sonic is a kids franchise. Like that's something that it is, okay? So I don't know if that's like the place for it to have like Sonic or wrestling with the more ambiguity of like beating up this little girl or something for whatever reason it would be. I think plus I just think that there are just better ways for that franchise to like show more ambiguity if that's what you want to do. But um, I think that we're having a disagreement, and I would like to explore that because I think, or explicitly, because I think that our disagreement that we're having is that should Sonic have more ambiguity or should he just be a hero? Because I was making a descriptive statement when I said that Sonic is a hero. I was saying that is what he is. That's just what he's always been presented as, despite what's been said. And I think that we agree on that. Descriptively, Sonic has been presented as a hero.
Mm-hmm.
But should he be a hero or should he just be that straightforward? That's
Yes.
something I would think we could
Like
be an interesting point of discussion.
I'm just going to we'll start with this right now. Yes, there is. I have seen so many different series try to do the whole. I've seen a bunch of different other stories and franchise try to do the whole like let's make the characters more ambiguous, and every single fucking time the show disappears up unless it's written explicitly for adults, and even then it still trips over itself. It always disappears up its own ass for and loses perspective on everything. Like this is the same kind of shit they end up doing in Ruby, and Ruby completely self-destructs on itself all the fucking time because it keeps trying to do that kind of crap too and misses the goddamn point of its own premise. And Sonic does not benefit from doing that at all. Like this is the reason why I said again, IDW tries to big brain itself into the negatives because there's no reason to try to do that. Right now, you are dealing with the main character. His whole thing is I like running fast, I like being on adventures, and I like beating up, and I like fighting and beating up this this mad scientist who wants to try to turn us all into turning everyone on their planet into a robotic slave. There are plenty of places you can work on that. There are places I say definitely needs to be built onto that, needs to be added onto that in order for it to be a more functional story. But trying to make it morally ambiguous doesn't benefit anything in the story. Like, what would be other than just to go? It's interesting, aka the creators want to try to pretend like they're deep for 5 seconds. What would even be the benefit of doing something like that? How would that benefit Sonic's character other than just like not just so you can say it's interesting? I mean, an actual benefit to the character. What does that by doing that?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like I said earlier, where I think that Sonic has an aesthetic of being that's okay. The whole Sonic, the whole idea of like Sonic, the whole way that he was conceived is that oh, he's not your dad's hero. He's not Mario. He's not a square. He's not going around saving princesses. He thinks princesses are gross and girls are gross, and he's like going around his skateboard or his snow or his soap shoes or whatever, and he doesn't like the government, he doesn't like police, etc., etc. So I think that that's like an aesthetic that's been associated with Sonic. That I don't know. It I think that it doesn't fully jive with Sonic being like this. See, it's funny. This render in particular. Have you seen the discourse on it? Have you seen anything about this
No,
render that we're looking at right now? Okay, people are like, okay, this is a white bread Sonic. Okay, this is not SA2 Sonic where he was like his limbs were all exaggerated and he had his hot dog legs and he was like smiling and he's all hardcore. This is like watered down corporate mascot Sonic who pays his taxes and obeys the speed limit. Gotta go pretty quick, that sort of thing. So that's one thing. So
but
I'm
hold on, hold on,
saying,
hold on. I'm going to let you keep going about this, but I want to go
yeah,
into
go ahead. Go ahead.
that's explicitly what I'm talking. That's explicitly what I'm saying is a bad thing to do because right now you're just talking to me about, oh, I want to get back to the aesthetic of the '90s. So you just do. So you want to try to
Wait,
snap.
I'm not saying me. I'm just saying that would be a reason. That's not necessarily.
Okay,
I
I
don't
already explained
necessarily.
how trying to be morally ambiguous for the aesthetic is a problem. So let's try.
All right, you know what? Yeah, sure. I'm saying I'm I don't I'm just saying I don't have that feelings that are that strong about it, but sure, for the purposes, that's my what I'm advocating for. Sure. Going back to the hardcore, whatever the 90s, sure, just to make it easier for you to talk about it and not be like running into no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that over and over again. So yeah, sure. I'll own that position. So go ahead.
No. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying you weren't owning that position. I was treating that like it was your position. My point is,
Okay.
I've already explained why this doesn't work. That's already a problem. When you keep trying to aim to make a character morally ambiguous for the sake of aesthetic, then you just end up with someone who's completely aimless and a slave to not only a complete slave to the plot, but they just end up doing stupid shit for the sake of moving the story forward, and they don't end up. And all they end up doing is becoming less of an edgy rebel and just more of a dumb fuck who just ends up making shit worse. Like I said, you don't end up when you try going for that, not because you're trying to explore some type of explicit morality mindset or any type of goal or mind. You're just making you just end up making Surge at this point. And Surge is a garbage character, mainly because she's not here to actually be a functional character. She is just there to fuck shit up, make things worse, and do nothing and actually have no principle. She actually drags the story. She actually ends up dragging the story down whenever she's in it, unless you're just looking for someone to have an emotional, unless you're just looking for someone to just have an emotional moment. You can't, and that's just for someone who's just a side wannabe villain. If you have a protagonist like this, they just end up turning into a mess and just become a slave to whatever the writer wants to do it that day. You don't gain anything from having. You don't gain anything from for as much as you might say Oda was having his cake and eating it too here. These two have a way clearer and defined moral mindset just off of this alone. As well as their actions in Wano, and still end up showing up themselves to be can be edgy rebels, but they actually have a point. They actually have a particular reason for why they end up acting like this and how they're functional in the first place. Just aiming to make characters morally ambiguous just for the sake of himself just makes them more aimless, or just turns them into smug douchebags who just end up making shit worse. Like, again, so I'm not saying you're wrong yet. I'm just saying this point doesn't work. So give me something else. What do we gain from trying to make Sonic morally ambiguous? Like, what is his character gain beyond the aesthetic?
Wait, I want to just keep to this just for a second. I just want to, because I think you're identifying a problem with the sort of rebel without a cause sort of character that sort of pops up again and again. And I think that this is sort of a problem with the way that people see Sonic, or the way people talk about Sonic. Because you'll ask someone, okay, why did Sonic do this action? Because he does what he wants. Okay, but why? But why though? Because he does what he wants. You know what I mean? And it's like it's not generated from anything specific. It's very abstract, which means that you are free to just do whatever you want. And it's not very satisfying to me narratively when there's not something specific that I can see Sonic's actions, if we're talking about Sonic's actions like coming from. You know what I mean? So I think that Flynn identified this. He was like, okay, Sonic is, I would say, and this might be a different conversation, I'd say that Sonic has been a lot of things that are self-contradictory. He's cocky, but he's humble. He wants to sleep all the time, but he also wants to go fast, and doesn't got no time for sitting around.
Yeah, no, he did. He more or less said the exact same thing about.
Wait. Okay, wait. Just let me finish.
Yeah.
So I think Flynn saw this, and he was like, okay, I'm gonna like look at all of Sonic, all of his actions on average, and then try to find like one specific concept, one specific theme, and I'm just gonna go with it. And it's not gonna be perfect. It's not gonna catch everything, but to get him on a track that's coherent, that has some sort of specificity or coherence, right? I'm just gonna pick one concept, and I think what he went with was freedom. Freedom, that's what Sonic wants. Freedom. It sort of mostly explains why he goes and saves the animals, mostly explains why he wants to go out and help people. And it kind of explains why he might let Metal Sonic go after the end of Sonic Heroes, or like Eggman go again and again and again, because as long as he's no longer an issue in Sonic, or as he's been defeated for the day in Sonic's mind, that's like fine. He's the problem over. No need to put him in jail. That's fine. I don't really believe in jail. He could. He's free to make a different choice, maybe this time. And if he doesn't, then I'll be there to kick his butt again. So that's Sonic. That's one thing that he is, and that's what we're gonna go with. So
hold up. First off,
wait. Can I just finish, please? Let me
Sure.
finish, please. Okay. So I think I'll give Ian Flynn credit that he didn't let himself fall into like the problem that a lot of Rebel Without a Cause characters fall into. He actually was like, okay, I'm going to give myself a restriction. I'm going to give Sonic one thing that's like his belief system, and I'm going to build around that one concept, one thing that people can latch onto, that people can maybe fight about, okay, that is actually could be controversial, that could run against like traditional morality. That thing is like freedom. Sonic is like a crazy libertarian guy. And I'm okay with that because it's actually something. It's like a thing that can be discussed, and it's not just Sonic does what he wants. Sonic does what he wants. He does what he wants because he's the wind, because he's Wind the Hedgehog, and like the wind, he is aimless and intangible. So yeah,
All right, so here's the problem. First off,
go
here's the
ahead.
thing. I agree with you that Flynn was trying to find a way to synthesize all the different versions of the character in order to try to get to one thing. He basically admitted he was trying to do that with Amy, and Amy turned into a mess because of it. But getting
Mm.
into Sonic, here's the problem. It's still here's the problem. As much as you're trying to argue it's trying to be consistent, it's not. The whole thing, like the whole reason he was trying to go for this whole thing of like, oh no, I don't want to kill, I don't want to do all this kind of stuff because I believe in freedom. But then you see him absolutely giving no fucking shit about being absolutely dismissive about any other fucking villain. Like when Starlight ends up getting infected and thrown into that portal, he just says like, oh yeah, he caused this stuff, I don't care about him. It's like, bro, pick a lane. Do you actually, or when Starlight ends up getting crushed, he just goes, oh, big oof. It's like, bro, you were just talking about how you're trying to like value life and all this kind of shit. Why are you being dismissive about it here? Even in universe, it's still incredible. Even just taking IDW Sonic in a vacuum is still incredibly inconsistent. And again, if your whole argument is trying to go, oh, Sonic is all about freedom, like I said, you can't believe in freedom and still allow these guys to all about freedom and stuff and want to make that go, but then actively make the choice to let these guys to run rampant. Now, here's the thing. I don't need, like I said, I don't need Sonic to have a whole conversation about why he's trying to put them in prison. I understand why he needs to put them in prison, all this kind of shit. My problem is the comic wants to evoke that conversation. I would have been fine if we just treated them like Saturday morning cartoon villains who always end up getting away, and we just deal with them next time. But they're the ones who end up wanting to have the ethical discussion. They're the ones who end up wanting to try to bring this in the forefront. They're the ones who have discussion. And anyone who's been pointing this out, who points out how this doesn't make sense, how this does who it points out how this doesn't make sense, how this absolutely makes him look like a complete fucking tool and doesn't gel well with anything else that happens in the games in the first place. You just get the whole, well, it's interesting and stuff, but it's not. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. I don't want to have a conversation about this because this is about how this breaks morality even in universe. And Flynn doesn't either. When all this shit was dropping during the Melvirus arc, he explicitly said he did not want to talk about it because he more or less he didn't think this was going to be controversial. He was actually trying to play this straight. He just thought this would be fine. But no one at any stage told him, bro, writing in a story that Sonic says, oh yeah, I'll come back in time and time again and I'll stop you at some point, and being completely fine about letting him go is fucking insane and does make him look a complete fucking tool. And the second, and I do mean the second, we end up seeing Eggman actually doing something to cause problems in the universe and hurt people, completely undermines everything we were going for and completely undermines this entire premise, which is honestly infuriating me because when you actually go through IDW, you realize Eggman hasn't been allowed to be a proper villain since the Melvirus arc, and Melvirus arc barely counts. So it's like they can't. So like it's delaying the inevitable about how stupid this mindset is, but it is a stupid mindset. And even in you, and the problem is I can't take this seriously as like, oh yeah, they're trying to have a discussion about this, because no character in the series besides Shadow and SBO push back on this when every character should the reason to push back on this. And like I said, it shouldn't even be his call. He's not God. He's not the jury of this goddamn universe. There should be, if this was an actual functioning place, there should be cops. There should be a fucking military. There should be people in this universe that go, yeah, no, fuck you. Yeah, no, we are taking Eggman down no matter what. If Sonic wants to help and take him down, fair enough, but he needs to go down. But the fact is, they don't want to have the discussion. Flynn just thought it'd be kind of cool to try to get meta about this and give it in universe reason and try to have a whole cheap discussion about it, but did it half-ass and ended up undercutting himself. That's the reason.
Okay, but do you understand, like in my mind, the fact that Sonic, has a moral system, that you are disagreeing with it, with like the specificities of it, to me that's like a good thing. I mean, I get it.
No,
Even
it's
if you
not.
think that he's doing it, is. It's like
No. The reason I
it
say
means that
it's
he
not
actually has
because
something to attack,
I
and it's not
don't.
just like nothing.
I don't know. The reason I have to get into this specific this specificity is because I keep having to deal with IDW fans who keep trying to find new excuses to try to make this make sense. I don't want to have to explain to someone why pissing in the middle of the street on somebody is a bad thing. That is not a good thing. I am for having ethical discussions, but I want to have proper ethical discussions where there's actual legitimacy to both sides, or at the very least, there might be a complete one. There is one good side to it, but there's a lot of negative consequences that come out of it. This is not a good discussion. This is not a good ethical discussion. If you actually if you want to see good discussion on ethics and that kind of stuff, go watch The Good Place. Go watch Help. I've been marathon Law and Order, and a lot of their episodes actually do a good job about trying to explore like the moral ambiguity about like certain things when it comes to our criminal justice system. That's why I like it. Not SVU, Law and Order. And there are plenty of other actual adult shows who do this. This show doesn't do this. This series just shows the problem. If anything, this series accidentally shows the problems with deontology. And just having 100% rule-based philosophy without understanding the consequences, because it's all about just shoving your head up your own ass just so you can feel good about sticking to your principles. That is not a good thing.
Okay.
And I don't want to have that. I should not feel like I have a conversation about Sonic.
I need to say something.
Like this.
I just need to say something just for the sake of the audience. Okay. There's something very specific. Okay. Don't be going like, oh, all these IDW fans. I have one thing that I want, and all I want is for Sonic to have even the most silly Saturday morning cartoons like Scrooge McDuck, like that lion guy from like Thundercats or whatever. Even all these guys had their morality generated from something, no matter how simple it was. You know what I mean? And that's all I want. I want something that can be attacked, that can be talked about, that is like real. That is not just like the aesthetic of like being something. That's not like the service level of being something. That's like actually something.
No, but
so that's the thing. So that's the thing I want. Wait. One last
thing.
I
would give you points on that if this was in universe. No. I would give you points on that if they were meant to have this discussion in a universe. I still think it would be stupid to do, but I would give them points on that if this was actually meant to be something that was discussed in universe. They don't want to discuss it in universe. It always gives like a half. They always throw in someone who's meant to be like a half-ass rebuttal to Sonic stuff before they get immediately undermined, and then we never follow back up on it again. And we're continuing to try to build on this over and over again. Like just in the most recent issue where Sonic's going like, well, I need to where after finding out that's Clutch is doing all this shady shit, putting his and his friend's life in danger, basically, and from his understanding, basically saying this entire basically putting everyone's lives in danger because of all this bullshit. He goes, no, we need to protect and save them. No, you fucking don't. I'm not saying I need to see Sonic be completely flippant about him dying. My point is, don't provoke it. I don't need to see this. Don't need to see this conversation here because there's no good. Because first off, this series doesn't benefit from this conversation when I know no one's gonna fucking die. No one in the series. When I know Sonic and no one here is really going to actually die, I know Starline's going to end up coming back at some. Is going to end up. Hell, no, I can't even count Starline because Starline doesn't even die from anyone else's direct action because he just ends up dying from like some buildings falling on top of him. And knowing how this series works, he's probably coming back in a couple of issues. So
wait, can I say something? Wait, can I say something? Okay, here's what you sound like to me, and this is for the audience, okay? Because my mic sounds worse than yours. So I need to just make sure that I can get this.
No, you're fine. But go for it.
Yeah. So you sound like someone who so I'm like reading like a Punisher comic, and then I'm like, this is really stupid what Frank is doing. If Frank was smart, he would like ask people to like invest in rehabilitative whatever, or he would like become a lawyer or something like that, instead of like making everyone scared of his ideology, and which probably just makes it harder for him to like get what he wants to make a world where his family or people like him don't like get their families killed or whatever. So, and I'm saying that
that's not what I'm saying.
That's why I'm saying that's not the point. I'm saying I'm saying that's what you sound like to me. So I'm saying when someone says that, and people have said that, that's not the point. I'm saying the point is like, or saying that you disagree with the moral system of the character. It doesn't like actually get to whether or not it's like good for the story, because it might be good for the story for Frank to have like that.
Nothing but be a detriment. My point here is not that, Sonic's not being smart about this. My point is, don't fucking put this here. We're not benefiting from this shit. The only reason to put this shit here is because Flynn wanted to try to pull in some more Batman crap, and it shouldn't have been here in the first place. I'm not saying that, Sonic needs to be smart about this. My point is, You don't get points for putting in a story where a character pisses in the middle of the street, lampshades at the piss in the middle of the street, and we give them points for, oh, we're discussing the ethical discussion about pissing in the middle of the street. No, don't put that in there.
Okay, but it sounds like here's a problem. If Sonic had done something smart, it sounds like there wouldn't be a problem. Which you should still have a problem if Sonic made the intelligent choice. If like you don't want Sonic to have like that deep like morality. You know what I mean? Like
It's not a
you know
deep
what I'm saying?
morality. It's a butchered version of every other superhero's no kill rule. This isn't smart. Not only is it's not just because it's not smart. It's a half-ass application of a rule in the first place. That's where the issue comes in. It shouldn't be. My point here.
Okay, wait, sure, that's good. Okay, it's always half-assed, but like how? Like I know you probably already said it. I'm sorry if I missed it, but like maybe in like 2 sentences. Why is it half-assed? Like on a meta narrative level, not just like, oh, it makes him look silly, or like there should be police who do this logically, or or paradox of intolerance or any of that. No, just like on a narrative level, why is it half-assed?
Because there's no reason for it to be here other than just to invoke the fact of, oh, isn't this deep? Isn't this deep? Don't we have like a no kill rule just like every other superhero? Except every other superhero, when they do try invoking this, there's at least some type of principle or mindset behind it to make it make sense. And honestly, I'm tired of most superheroes doing this shit. For example, the whole reason Batman does not have a no kill rule, or at least the one that the reasoning that I found that I'm completely okay with, is that Batman does not trust himself to not go fucking crazy and insane. Like, he knows that he is not in a good mental space. He knows that he knows he has a lot of darkness in him and does not trust himself, and he does not want to go with the idea of like, if he kills one person, he might think that it's okay and will just completely go off the deep end and just start axing everybody. So he has to put that restriction on himself. And I think in universe, that's fine. My problem, and this is the reason why I hate most superhero series, is I don't like this. I don't need this mindset in the first place. I am I don't like, because a lot of times they end up just trying to try to go against this in the worst way possible. Where it's like, oh, you don't want to kill these people? All right, then let's show them committing mass genocide and killing millions, and also show that they can break out of prison just as easy. It's like, okay, I know why you got. And I'm like, please stop, because there's no reason in the universe that fuck Batman, no one else should not be looking to go put a bullet in his head. There is no reason that we should not be maybe looking to try to put them down without any fucking remorse. Or just in universe, I don't want to have to keep dealing with the same villain over and over and over again, just because the hero. Just because not only the hero doesn't want to have a no-kill rule, but also because the writers don't want to make prison functional. Again, I go back to One Piece. One Piece, for the most part, does not repeat villains. Even when Luffy, like the second that Luffy has shown to has beaten up these bad guys, saves the day, completely saves whatever area that these bad guys are trying to terrorize in the first place, they are never shown as antagonists again. Could I easily assume they might be doing if they end up and a lot of times they end up just getting thrown in prison and we never see them again. Now, can I easily assume that the ones that we do see breaking out probably are doing some bad shit on the side? Probably, but they're never the focus of that. But they are never the focus at that point. They are never the focus as an antagonistic force. They are just shown in the background, possibly trying to boister or help out someone else's plot line.
Can I wait one thing? Can I say something?
Shoot.
Something ironic about what you're saying is that the portrayal of Batman I think you're referring to, like, I can't kill or I'll go crazy, I think that was pretty specific to like Under the Red Hood and maybe like some other stories like that.
And if you bring up something else, no, hold up. Before you go there, I have not read. Hold on, because I know you're probably about to give some more context about the story. Let me just explain this. I don't know anything else about the comic. I basically saw that post either like on Twitter or on Tumblr at some point, and I was like, you know what? That's fine. I am A-okay with that being Batman's mindset. Let's roll. That's totally fine. That's totally a justifiable reason. Now, if you give literally anything else in order to try to make it seem like all the bad things or anything going for that, I'm just going to flip and just go, yeah, that's fucking stupid. I'm just going to end up ripping into it. So you can go for it, but like, I'm not married to them. I'm not married to that in the first place.
yeah, I'm not trying to do like oh, there are other interpretations of Batman and you're wrong about it. No, what I'm
No.
saying is that that was after this, the context of this. And I'm not trying to do a gotcha, but like I'm only trying to like say, or maybe it is a gotcha. Whatever, it's a gotcha. You can treat it as a gotcha. Whatever, if it makes it easier to like defend yourself. But okay, the context of that story or that sort of examination of his like no kill rule was after like decades of that being like established. I don't remember when Under the Red Hood came out, but it
Mhm.
was like it was after Batman had had this no kill rule for years, for decades and decades and decades, and it was a way of like explaining it who to Jason, who was like, no, why don't you kill him? Why can't you just kill him? That was like that was new. It was like because I'm afraid that I'll like lose myself if I do this. And there have been different explanations. Like I don't think it was like the three Jokers, whatever, where Batman was like, the reason I don't kill is because someone might make a better choice later, which like Joe Chill, who had shown remorse or whatever. He was like the killer of Batman's parents. He like showed remorse and he's like, I want to do better. And Batman, I think, ended up saving him at the end of that story. He's like, the reason you don't kill is because, you know, I want to give criminals like another chance. If I'm remembering that correctly, I don't know. So I'm saying this, and I'm saying you're saying that Sonic being like laying out his whole moral system, right, has no utility, but someone doing the exact same thing, taking a character who has had like this aspect of them, like no killing or whatever, for like years, or just like letting them go for like years, and it's like recontextualizing that to make something that might be more narratively satisfying. So maybe it didn't work for you the same way that like, oh, I might go crazy if I kill like this one mass murderer might not work for like other people, fans of Batman. Like maybe Sonic laying out his whole thing would work for some other person. It would be like, oh, okay, I'm satisfied with that. You know what I mean? It's I I'm saying I think the irony is that it proves the utility of taking a character who you hasn't had their moral system fleshed out before and actually like giving your own interpretation of it, trying to make it coherent because that's yeah, it ended up making up something that you liked with Batman. And I agree, I like that take on it. It does sort of help me
But you do
sort of
understand that's not
digest it.
you do realize that's not applicable here, right?
Why not?
Because they haven't been actually exploring it. The best case we got, I don't even think it's been explicitly stated. I think that's just been more or less people picking up from context clues that in Sonic, all we've really been getting is, oh, I stand by my principles no matter what. We haven't been getting any type of exploration or actual proper debate about this shit. At best, it's been like a lot of people going like, well, I didn't know Tinker was going to end up turning bad. How was I supposed to know? And it's like, they don't like that's the other reason why I don't buy this as a defense in the series, because they're not having the discussion. They're not actually trying to do the debate, and I don't think there's a benefit to doing that debate here in the first place. What are like okay? Because here's the thing: the ultimate reason why Sonic does not actually work to put Eggman down is because he's a franchise villain. That's it. That is ultimately the reason. Trying to come up with any other reason in the universe is just there's
But that's
no
same with
good reason.
Batman though.
Huh?
That's
Yeah,
same
I
with
know. That's it.
Batman.
No, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. Seriously? Yes, I know. Every superhero. That's the exact same reason. And honestly, I'm tired of everyone trying to pretend like there's try to pretend like, oh, we can make something deep out of this. Don't. There's no good. No. All I ask is, especially for a series like this, like I get why they try doing it in superhero stuff, because a lot of them want to try to seem like they are more adult, they're more specific, they're more they are trying to be explore more ethical stuff, and a lot of times other superhero comics do that. This series doesn't. This series is written by Flynn and Stanley. They can barely handle why beating up a bad guy is a bad thing. So I don't want them tackling anything. They shouldn't be tackling anything complicated in the first place. One, two, the whole reason, but two, there's nothing to gain out of doing an ethical discussion behind this, because at the end of the day, not only because Sonic is not the only person fighting in this series, so you're going to have to come up with an excuse for everybody in this guy, everyone in this series, and you can't do that for everybody, because some people should be wanting to catch a body, especially Shadow. There's no good reason to have this discussion. So that's why my alternative is going the Pokemon route with Team Rocket. Don't fucking address it. Do we need to have a conversation in Pokemon about why Ash and Co never call the cops on Team Rocket? No, because there's no benefit. There's no benefit to doing that conversation other than to just try to ego stroke. It's not like they're even trying to have the ethical discussion in the first place. They stumbled into it, and when they stopped, when it was time to actually start paying the piper, they gave this cop out scene, and they gave this fucking cop out scene and just moved on from it. They shouldn't do. The whole point is they shouldn't be doing this in the first place. That's why I've been saying that's the reason why I have not been trying to argue in universe about how they could try to justify or how it's stupid for why it doesn't make sense in universe for Sonic to do it. I've been arguing for why it's stupid for the writers to be invoking this shit in the first place. They don't have anything to actually say about it, especially Flynn. They don't. It doesn't do anything to actually benefit the character's story in any way. All you do is get this aesthetic of trying to pretend like you're actually being deep and trying to explore, pretending you're actually trying to explore the aesthetics, but you're not.
Okay, wait. So I'm gonna ask a question
Shoot.
that I don't know if you can agree with. I think or disagree with it. I think it's tautologically true, but that's kind of the point of the question.
Shoot.
Okay. So the question is, if I wanted to explain why Sonic doesn't kill people, but it was good. Okay, that's literally the question. If it was good, would that be a good thing? If it was like interesting and good and everyone liked it, that would be good, right? Tautologically, right?
Not really. Like again,
But it's necessarily true.
No,
It's
hold on.
like
The reason why I'm having a hard time answering that question is for a couple of reasons. One, I don't. You're kind of missing my point. I don't want like the whole goal is I'm not like the whole reason I find the conversation around this to be very disingenuous is because a lot of people try to pretend like there is only two options for how to deal with a villain. You either kill them or let them go. When there's like a billion different things in between, one of which being just jail. My problem is I don't need there to be the whole point is there really shouldn't be a reason. All you gotta do is have Sonic beat Eggman at the end of the day. Eggman gets away from one reason or another, and we day solve. And two, don't have him go to genocide. Don't have him go to genocide levels. Have him have his stupid little robot that causes his own little fun problems for like a city or whatever, and Sonic stops him and moves on. Just keep him as like a step or two more threatening than boom. There is no benefit. My point is, there's no benefit for giving him a no-kill rule because there's no benefit for giving him a no-kill rule because there's nothing in the character that really benefits from trying to evoke that when there's no benefit to doing that. So my question here is
yeah, but I'm saying wait. Can I
why do we need? So before I can answer your question, here's my question: why does Sonic need a no-kill rule?
The reason that anything happens in a story is because it would be entertaining or interesting.
No,
So,
something.
yeah,
No.
that's it. No, that's it.
No. That's a cop out. The whole not
No,
everything that
that's
happens in a
yes.
story is just done so it can be interesting. No, some things are just done for
No, interesting, entertaining.
It's not.
Or just
No. Like I said,
entertaining. That's it.
no. Like I said, that's a cop out. I'm not looking for you to just go. It's interesting. It's entertaining. No. I can say that about like, oh, you can say that if I ask you, well, why do we need to have a scene of Sonic digging all up into his nose and pulling out a booger the size of his head? Well, it could be deep and entertaining. No, it's not. It's fucking creepy and gross out humor. Why are we creepy
Yes,
and
I
gross?
know. If I moral dumbfounded, I'd say, what if we had a scene where Sonic shot Osama bin Laden or something? I know if I say something silly, then like, yes, I know it'll sound
I
silly.
know. No. My whole point. No. My point here is not that the example is silly. My point here is that's a cop out. That just saying it's interesting doesn't mean anything if you're not actually going to explain what is supposed to be interesting about the first place. The whole point of me asking that is that you do think that it's interesting and entertaining. My whole point. So the reason I'm asking that question is, what is the reason for it to be interesting and entertaining? What is the point of doing that in the story? Why do we need to have him have a no-kill rule?
Okay.
Come on, get into it a little bit deeper. What would ultimately be the benefit of putting that in?
Well, the problem is there is nothing deeper than that. That's it. I'm saying, look, same reason. Okay, the reason why Batman was given that explanation for why he had his no kill rule or whatever was to like make an explanation might be more satisfying, that might be more like easy to digest in like this like increasingly dangerous and turbulent world that might allow people to like take Batman for who he is. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you ended up liking it. So if
No, I
Sonic
thought no,
can
no,
do
no, no,
that for
hold on,
someone else, then that's the
no, no, no,
point.
no, no, no. I gotta respond to this. No,
But
I did not. I did not like it. I tolerated it. I thought it was fine. But personally speaking, I'd rather just have interpretations of Batman where that's just not an issue. Where when we are dealing with the bad guy, we just put them in prison and call it either put them in prison or they just die for one reason or another, and we move the fuck on. Or if you want to show Batman actually being able to rehabilitate these guys, show them rehabilitating them and move the fuck on. Do not
okay,
repeat. Do not repeat. If you need to repeat a villain, you do it once, twice at the absolute most, and you move the fuck on. I do not like the idea of if I would be completely fine with just never invoking. He could just have a no kill rule because he just doesn't like killing people, and that's fine. But my point is, but the corollary to that is don't have them get villains where the only way that it seems like you can only deal with them properly is putting them into the fucking dirt. If you want, like, I'm totally fine with just showing, like, in Batman, just show them having an Arkham Asylum that's actually functional and keeping the villains contained, or at jail that's actually functional and keep contained, and just leave it at that. I do not need a whole thing about trying to explain why Batman doesn't kill people even when they've gotten to the point of almost nuking every last person on the goddamn planet. I don't need to kill. I don't need I don't need my characters to have a reason to kill people. Like, I don't need I don't need I don't need any character that I'm reading to have a reason why they don't kill people. Killing is generally wrong in the first place. My whole point is don't invoke villains where the only place that seems to be reasonable to deal with them is to put them in the fucking kill them. And in Sonic's case, it's not. We haven't even gotten to the point of him having a no kill rule or not. I'm just saying stop trying to invoke the idea that it's okay for him to let all these people go, or like to be fine with letting villains go or not actually be dealt with properly, or worse, caring about their trying to constantly show him caring about the villain's well-being when they clearly don't give a shit about anything else. The whole point is don't put these scenes in. Like, for example, the whole scene with him saving Clutch for Eggman's missiles. The correction is not that I need to see Sonic off the side going, yeah, that's what you get for trying to call all this shit. No, that'd be weird too. My point is, don't put that scene in there. Don't have either don't have Sonic in that situation, or just don't cut to him reacting. Don't cut to him reacting in any way. Or even better, don't have Clutch, because Clutch was a bad idea in the first place. So the issue here is not that I need Sonic. So again, it's not. This is where I do go back to One Piece. Like, it would be very, and I do mean very easy to show Luffy getting fed by someone who is actually evil and going, oh yeah, Luffy, now that I need to enslave this entire, he wouldn't go through with it, but you could easily show a story with these guys where they do end up helping someone who is genuinely evil, and it will still make sense for their characters. But the whole thing about that is not, oh, we need to show we need to tweak something about the story a little bit to make sure that this makes sense. No, the problem is don't put them in that story in the first place. I am totally fine with these guys just being cheap, silly, fun mercenaries for hire who always end up fighting the bad guys, and save the day and have giant parties at the end. I don't need to see some weird moral exploration in order to try to make the story seem deep. And the same thing applies to Sonic. The solution here is not we need to come up with a no kill rule. The solution is stop trying to justify the idea that Sonic wants to let Eggman go. Just treat him like a Saturday morning cartoon villain. We don't explore the moral stuff around it, and we just move the fuck on.
okay, can I say one thing?
Shoot.
Or maybe a few things. I think that what you're saying, I don't even necessarily disagree that not addressing it would be a would be a satisfactory, fine way to do it. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with that because I wouldn't really probably think about it. You know what I mean? If it's not put in front of your face, right, the ethical dilemma, then it doesn't exist. I mean, you're the writer. You don't have to introduce the ethical dilemma. It does not exist if you don't talk about it. But I think the issue with franchise characters, maybe in particular, if
Mm-hmm.
you want to write any narrative with any sort of like complexity, right? is that eventually your audience is gonna start asking questions, and that's what happened with Batman. When a character really,
No, you
the
don't.
thing is,
You
maybe it's, wait, hold on,
don't.
dude, let me just
No, I know. Okay, go, go.
wait. When a character talks about their no kill rule, I think that it's like it could be its own phenomenon. I think it's like addressing a need. Okay, it's like or it's something that's happening in the audience. Okay, where they'll be like, okay, why does he not kill? And then the rumblings start, and then people start doing their quote tweets of like panels, like, okay, Batman, why did you kill this guy? Okay, we can't kill mass murder. And they talk, and then they talk and talk, and they start getting more and more and more dissatisfied. So the reason that you explain that is in order to make the is in order to placate the audience or to like give them something satisfying to like chew on for why something just keeps happening and why you're not talking about it, because you cannot talk about it. That might work for a while, but as the franchise just keeps rolling, eventually people are going to talk and people are going to ask questions. So this, in Sonic's case, I think it was preemptively just getting ahead of that. This is what Sonic
Okay,
is. This is what he
no,
did.
no,
This is what he
no. This hold up. No, you're trying to
believes.
go more into the example. I already get the example. We get the example. I get it. Like you're trying to get the idea about responding to your to a certain fan like question or criticism about that. First off, no, you fucking don't. First off,
Yes, I do.
first off, you don't need to establish a no kill rule. Like you don't. First off,
No,
because
it's not
again,
even a no kill rule. It's just not killing in that case.
you
Yes.
no. That's the same thing. The whole point is you don't need to establish in the universe why someone doesn't, why someone isn't killing somebody, unless you are constantly showing them coming back, causing more problems over and over and over and over and over again. And even then, it's like okay, why aren't you
Like
not
Eggman.
escalating this problem? And you don't. And here's the thing: in that situation, the no kill rule is a cop out. That's not actually trying to explore some type of ethical dilemma. Because at a certain, this is again the
It
problem
has a
with
function, but
no,
that's not. I wouldn't call that a cop out.
no,
It has a.
the reason I say it's a cop out because the reason that we did, like for example, again, I seriously, to
It's
quote
okay.
a friend
It's
of mine,
okay.
hold up. To quote a friend of mine, One Piece ruins everything because One Piece is a really good reference point for how to do a bunch of different shit and never have to a bunch of different shit that even could be seen as controversial or wrong, and they still do it properly. For example, this series has gone on for 25 years. Do you think no one has ever questioned why Luffy and all the people that they've been fighting, why aren't you guys killing anybody? Because as far as I can tell, besides like maybe like one character, they have never killed anybody. And I don't, and in most cases, you don't really need your superheroes to be going around killing people left and right either, because for the most part, superheroes are basically just cops with superpowers and don't have to worry about warrants. You can just show them beating up the bad guy and then putting them in jail. The only time that ends up becoming a problem when you constantly keep showing jail is not working, not just because they end up serving their time and getting out and still causing more shit, but when you show them actively breaking out, actively breaking out, and actively causing even more and more destruction, and constantly showing the characters being nice and trying to be like, we'll try to work with you, but they're actively doing things worse. That's when you have to do the no kill rule. And the reason the reason I say the no kill rule is a cop out is because that's not responding to why the characters need to kill the supervillains. That's not the problem. The question is why, if we are constantly showing the supervillains constantly coming back, causing more shit, why are we doing something to make sure that they can't cause any more problems anymore? If normal prison isn't working, why don't we do that? And that's not a response to why we need to kill them. The real question is, why the fuck do we keep having to bring these villains back over again to try to make trying to give them mercy when they clearly don't want it, and clearly are looking to make things worse? The correct response is, why don't we either retire these villains or show them actually being in prison and showing that the prison is working? That's a better way to do that, because you can just have the character go, I don't want to kill people because killing is wrong. We like valuing life here, and that's okay, and that's fine. Just show that your prison system is working, or that whatever you're using for your rehabilitation system is fucking working, and go with that instead of constantly having your villains come back over and over and over again. That's where the problem comes in.
Okay, so there's like one world where that's like, okay, the reason that it works in One Piece, and I think that you've identified this, is because villains are allowed to be retired and they are allowed to no longer be a problem. Okay, but like, okay, so let's like go into like Sonic World, and let's go into Sega World actually. Let's say you're like the writer for the Sonic franchise, and I come up to you and I'm like, Eggman's never going away. He's here to stay because he's big and he's iconic. He's like a big deal. So he's never going away. He always needs to come back. And you need to figure out why he's always coming back and why Sonic allows it. So like what do you do? So this is the world you're in. That's the
Simple.
rule.
Simple. I just show him always either teleporting or getting away one reason or another. One and two. I don't wear Eggman out. One, I don't wear Eggman out, so I try to make sure he's as sparingly used. He's used a relatively decent amount, but I don't wear him out and have him be the central villain over and over and over again. One, two. I don't have. Two. I also make sure that when he does show up, I am not having him cause genocidal levels of destruction. At best, it's going to be, I have a giant robot and it throws bubbles around and it's going to encase all of you. Ha ha ha. And we just use him for that, and then we just use him for silly little goof off funny moments where it's like he's an annoyance, he needs to be dealt with, but he's fine, he's functional, and we just move he's fine, he's an annoyance, but we can deal with him really easily, and we just move the fuck on. Done.
Okay, well,
that was 90% of it.
Okay, so that works. Okay, then you make your story, and then the game gets like greenlit or whatever. The game is made, and then everyone's happy. And then a YouTuber named Mayday, he makes a video essay about why Sonic is stupid. Okay, and then he's like, okay, so I think the writers are increasingly making convoluted reasons why Eggman's getting away. One time he teleported away. One time he had a spring that allowed him to get away. You would think that maybe Tails, with a 300 IQ, would be able to deal with his escape plans at this point, but every single time, I can count 50 times in the comic books that Eggman's just gone away. So that's the first thing he says, right? And then the next thing, wait, what's the next thing he said? Okay, just the first thing he said. Let me remember that.
Again, here's the thing though.
Convoluted.
I just would
like again and again, people ask questions. It doesn't.
I know. I just don't feel the need to address it. Again, this is why I said Team Rocket is a better reference point for this. I got tired of Team Rocket, but I just got tired of how much they just kept showing up over and over and over again in plots that they were not relevant for at all. And the second they started toning them down on that, I was fine because even as a kid, I knew they're the franchise villains. They're around because we still need something to cause some conflicts every once in a while. Just let them be that and move the fuck on. And no one had that question about them. Again, if Eggman was just doing the exact kind of silly, goofy shit that he was doing like in X or in Boom, you'd be fine because he's not actually. But when you start taking him to genocidal, authoritarian, I'm looking to try to I'm actually being successful at taking all this kind of shit down, and clearly prison is not going to work for keeping me contained. Then that's where the question starts coming up, and it starts becoming more and more.
Right. That's true. I agree.
That's why you don't do that.
Yeah, but that's true. But then I make another video essay, and then I'm like, or sorry, Mayday. He's like, Sonic stories. Why Sonic stories have no stakes? I'm sorry. Am I watching a baby video game franchise, or am I watching like Sonic Adventure? Because Sonic Adventure had actual stakes where a water monster probably drowned millions of people. And nowadays, Sonic is just doing Saturday morning cartoon stuff. And I don't like that. That's not what I was like when I was a kid.
No, hold up. Mayday in this situation wouldn't be making this conversation because that was literally the first thing I said. He's not going to be the main. I wouldn't use him as the main villain. Like I said, I use him as a Team Rocket villain who cause problems occasionally every once in a while, but then we end up moving. But we have other villains who are supposed to be around, who are also around, who are actually meant to be like serious, legitimate threats, who are other legitimate threats in the first place, and those are meant to be their own little like arc villains, or own little fun villains, and they get retired of. And once they end up causing their own shit and causing problems, then we retire them and move the fuck on.
Wait, so Sonic kills them, or he like,
no,
or they die?
No.
Oh, I'm just wondering. That's like a genuine question.
Again, and I'm not saying this towards you. I'm saying this towards literally every IDW fan who makes this discussion. No one wants Sonic to kill. I don't need Sonic to kill. No one who's criticizing the shit they've been doing IDW wants Sonic to kill. The whole issue is stop trying to invoke this whole thing about how he's so principled about letting someone who almost came close to destroying the planet 3 times run free. That's where the problem comes. That's where the issue comes in.
Okay.
So the
Well,
whole solution is when it comes to the other villains, just show prison working. Again, One Piece. 9 times out of 10, they just have the villains just get their asses beat and then thrown in prison, and they just show prison works. Done. We don't need to
okay.
make this whole thing.
Wait, I actually agree. Making Sonic more like One Piece would be a way to do it. That would be a way to not have to address it. But I don't. My guess is that that's not the way it is. That you can't just make villains whenever you want. See, if Sonic was more shonen like, where it was like this like revolving door of new interesting villains, I would actually like that. I'm not gonna be mad at that. You know what I mean? That sounds awesome. But I think that that's not really the way it is. I don't think we can.
I know that's the reason why I'm criticizing it left. That's the reason why I can criticize left and right, because it's trying to do what you want, and you can't even admit that's
Yeah, I'm
causing.
saying if yeah, so I'm saying operating within the rules, the way that Sega is placed. Sega is the world, and we're all just living in it,
No,
and
no, no,
that's
no,
kind
no,
of
no,
just the way it is. But
no. I'm tired of this. This is not Sega's fault. This is Flynn. Flynn is the one who tried doing this, because this is
you
because
think wait, wait,
no,
wait, wait,
no,
wait.
no,
You
no,
think
no.
okay.
This has not been an issue until IDW. That's also the other problem with this argument in the first place. No one has been trying to argue, oh, why hasn't Sonic has such a weird rule about Eggman in the first place, until IDW brought it up. This has not been an issue up to this point. No one had
I
this issue
agree.
with Lost World. No one had this issue in Boom. No one had this issue in X, because they treated Eggman how he's supposed to be, slightly above the threat of a Saturday morning cartoon villain, and just leaving him at that. Outside of the Saddam and Archie stuff, he's usually just meant to be more or less a joke villain. This didn't start becoming a problem. The whole thing about this didn't start becoming a problem until IDW. And as much as you're trying to talk about how Mayday in the situation might have these problems, I'd rather have one person who's asking questions that I've already addressed and I can just move on, and no one else is, versus this that's actively causing problems and actively pissing people off. Way more people than just one. Way more people than just one. That's where the problem. So even by your own standard of like, oh, we need to jump ahead of this so we can deal with this question ahead of time, you're causing more problems.
I'm saying
That's the reason why I said just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Sonic as a Saturday morning cartoons thing, that is that's a direction you can go with Sonic, and I think it would please a lot of people. I agree. Okay,
No,
it would
hold on,
please some fans, but it
hold
would
on.
upset
I
some
gotta
others.
clarify here. I'm not talking about Sonic overall. I'm just talking about how to deal with Eggman. Just don't use him.
Eggman. Okay.
Yeah, just don't use him as like a one.
Okay,
Don't.
sure. Just Eggman. So that is the direction you can go with this character, and I think it would please some people, but I don't think that the only reason that people okay, some people, here's the thing. Some people would not like that. Some people would be like, Eggman should be more of a threat. What about Sonic Unleashed? He broke up the world, blah, 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 blah. He should be more this and that. And some people would not like that. They think that, oh, okay, all these new villains, all these OCs are being brought in to like make Eggman look like a joke and blah, blah, blah. Some people wouldn't like that.
Mhm.
And the reason that they wouldn't like that, it's not just because like the question isn't being presented in front of them. It's because like that's like the way that maybe they felt he was supposed to be before. That's like just their preference. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
so some people would like Eggman to be more of a Saturday morning cartoon villain. That would help some issues, and I can see where you're coming from. That would fix some problems. Making Sonic more like One Piece would fix a lot of problems, but it would create, if not problems, then problems with certain people. Certain people wouldn't like that, and that's like, and I guess I'm trying to say that no matter what direction you go, someone is not gonna like it. And saying you can like pick you
Yeah, I
can
know.
pick a lane,
Hold on. No,
okay?
that's the reason why I have not been trying to make this a point about how many more people are going to get pissed off about this for one reason or another. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be not only because one, it's very arbitrary, and this is already in a hypothetical, and the number of people who can get pissed off of this is going to be very nebulous in any of these suggested timelines in the first place. That's the reason why I have been relying on this in the first place. So that's the reason why all my arguments have not been about what you are about how the number of people. It's about what you are ultimately communicating and doing with the material itself. What are you trying to do with the work, and what are you ultimately trying to communicate not only about this worldview, but what are you also trying to do and add to the character? And my point is, this is not beneficial, and the only reason to do this is to do this kind of stuff is to portray the idea of the aesthetic of being deep without actually having to do anything to back it up. That's why my position is all about, okay, if I got to keep Eggman around, I can't make him some high tier serious threat, which, side note, pretty much every game makes him, every game up, honestly, up until basically, no, except for like Forces, makes him a joke to a certain extent, because by the end of it, he usually ends up getting one up by whoever else is the villain in that story, from Heroes with Metal, Frontiers with the end and all that crap. This is if anything, this is by the book for Eggman for always getting one up to the story by a certain point. So yeah, this wouldn't even be new.
Okay, I agree that you weren't making the argument. I'm the one who's making the argument about like who some people would be upset about it. Because in my mind, the way I see a story, the only way to measure something's utility is whether or not it's like entertaining. And not like entertaining the most people or something, but like whether or not it entertains someone or like it speaks to someone or it resonates with someone. Okay.
Mhm.
If you're like in a world where like something, if you go one way, it's gonna make someone upset. It's not gonna be the way someone remembered. If you go another way, it's gonna make someone upset, and it's not gonna, it's gonna have like issues. Then, then like no matter what you do, you're sort of trapped. So I'm saying you need a, like you
That's,
gotta go
no,
somewhere. I'm saying,
no,
okay, I'm trying to, okay,
the
the
reason why
way
I'm
I'm
saying
trying to present,
that's the reason why I'm saying you're already off on a bad start for trying to frame it like that in the first place, because by that framing you're trapping yourself and just going, well, it doesn't matter which way I go for. Yeah, if you frame it like that, don't worry about that framing, because again, like I said, this is already a hypothetical, and trying to make hypotheticals off of trying to guess how certain people might respond to it in a hypothetical when you don't really have and just trying to guess what number of people are going to get pissed off for one or another, unless you have like something really substantive to suggest what this would kind of piss people off. I just say don't worry about that. Even if I made the case that I think this pisses off more people than the other way, I'm not worrying about that, because that's just getting into like weird back and forth things. That's not going to be substantive. That's why I'm focusing on what we're communicating. So my whole point is move off of that and give me something else. Why is this not? I'm fully willing for you to respond to me about why making Eggman one of many villains and not treating him like he's this world-ending threat. World-ending threat is a bad thing. I'm fully willing to hear your debate or your discussion about that, but I need you to give me a rebuttal to that mindset beyond just, well, it might make some people sad. Well, make people upset. Well, people get upset about everything. I mean, give me something else about why this is a problem in story. Like, what is wrong with doing this? What is the problem with doing this as a story? Hit me.
okay. Sorry, the reason I keep going to like the meta conversation of like how many people would be upset about it, I'm trying to present the route that they did. Okay, because you're not just saying this is a route you could go with Eggman. You're saying that this is a better route. This would be better, and it would solve all these issues.
Mhm.
Saying that's true, maybe for some people, but it would introduce new issues that wouldn't be present in
What
the
are those
world we
issues?
are in.
What
Okay,
issues? That's what I'm looking for. What
like
are
the
the
issues that I said, okay, low stakes. Okay, if you are for Eggman in particular, people like Eggman. People think he's cool. Okay, and they think that he's done all these cool things. And if you introduce all these new villains, all these OCs who are trying to undercut Eggman, and Eggman's just silly, some people are not going
here's
to be
the
down
funny
for that. I wouldn't be down for
no,
that.
here's the
Okay,
funny
us,
part. I already no. Here's the funny part.
yeah.
We already have that. We already have that now, and people aren't pissed off these characters because they're quote unquote undercutting Eggman. Usually, they're calling them off for being shit because they're
What
shit in a
you
vacuum.
think?
Like
Wait. You think that
that's
Clutch
literally
is more of a
no,
threat than
seriously. That
Eggman?
is literally Clutch's whole thing. I don't even like Clutch because again, I think his motivation is way too redundant, and they don't know how to build a mob boss properly. But that's literally his in-universe goal is about basically doing exactly what Eggman is doing and undercutting him in the process in order for him to be able to take over the world using his junk tech.
Wait,
And
no,
people,
wait.
and while
I
people
totally
don't like Clutch,
disagree.
it's not because he's undercutting Eggman.
No, Clutch is decidedly filling a totally different niche than Dr. Eggman. Clutch is it's a possum.
What makes
He's
you
like
think?
a rodent.
No, hold on. What makes
He
you think the
stays in
villains?
the.
No, what makes you think the villains I'm talking about wouldn't fill their own niche too?
Um. Okay, I thought you were talking about escalating stakes. That like they're the world-ending villains, and Eggman's kind of just silly, and he does his silly things, and that's why
Well,
he's
no,
allowed
but
to come back.
no, like okay. First off, I am not for the. First off, most series don't, and especially Sonic, I don't think they should go on for like 20, 30 years. Like let every version kind of like 5, 10 years at the absolute most. I don't even think that it should go that long and just introduce stuff like that. That's where you can introduce the proper world. I don't think you should like start out with world ending
Can I
threats.
say one thing? If Sonic had an ending, then all the problems are fixed. That's I would agree with that. Sonic should have an end if he's like a comic or something. Or Sonic the comic at least should have an end if you don't want to end the franchise. And that fixes like 90% of your issues. I agree. Because like the stakes can escalate and then eventually you have some sort of conclusion. Okay? But I'm saying that's not the world. In this world.
Here's your problem. We do live in that world right now. Because if we're not talking about if we're putting off the comics to the side, we're just talking about like, because your whole argument right now is about how we have to address why Sonic has a no-kill rule, why Sonic lets them go. Here's the problem. We've been doing that shit for 25 fucking years in the games. No one that has not been some major question or problem people have been asking up to this point. This is a self-inflicted problem Flynn put in. No one was asking that issue before we got to this point. We could have been fine. Like no one is asking Mario, why doesn't Mario kill Bowser? Because we know Bowser is just the franchise villain. No one was asking him.
Because Mario is like a Saturday morning cartoon. It's not like trying to like.
Sonic.
Not trying to address more serious
problems. Sonic is too. Like Sonic's not this. Sonic got a little edge? Can be a little edgy sometimes, but he's not. He's still a Saturday morning cartoon character.
No, not anymore. That Pandora's box opened a long time ago, and you can't go back. There are people who remember what it was like.
The whole point is this has not been an issue. The whole point is the whole thing about questioning why Sonic doesn't kill Eggman, all that kind of shit. That has never been a problem up to this point. That has not been a thing.
It would have been a problem.
That has not been a question or a thing people have been having until Eggman opened that question, until Flynn decided to open that question. And here's the thing. If the games never answered that, we'd be fine. If the games never decide to follow up on that, and they shouldn't, we'd be fine. The whole problem is IDW wants to try to do this shit, and they've been struggling trying to make Sonic be a functional protagonist ever since. Honestly, the whole joke I've been having with my friends in particular is, okay, what would we try to do in order to try to get this shit to make sense? Not even to try to have Sonic go, I need to kill Eggman, but just to get to address the fact of how stupid the rationale is behind this and just moving on and just going and just having Sonic go, okay, you know what? That was stupid. Let's get Eggman. Let's just take down Eggman, try to see what we can do to help people, put him in prison, and move the fuck on. But the whole thing is, no matter which route we go, we ultimately have to realize there's no core principle behind this shit. And there's nothing really the best way to not address it, the best way to address it is to just not address it and just have Sonic go next time, let's put him in prison, move the fuck on. Because there's no core belief behind this shit. It was just Sonic going, I have principles and moving on from that, but no core belief, but there were no principles actually stated behind it. It was just going, I have principles. There's nothing to address. You can honestly
what do you mean that we just had if there's nothing to address, then you can't attack his morals because they don't exist.
I can. No. When I'm talking about addressing, I'm talking about what can we do to actually fix it. Yeah, back on point. The whole point is there's nothing I can do to fix there's nothing I can do to actually address it as an argument because there's no argument actually being made or actual proper characterization to actually address behind this. It's just
hold on, you're wrong. There is. Okay, then what are we talking? This whole conversation doesn't make sense.
No, it does. No, hold on. No. Let me phrase this to make sure that we're getting.
Okay, by the way, sorry, I have to go in like maybe 10 minutes.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll make this quick. Yeah. The whole thing I said about Sonic, now, that there's nothing to address. What I mean is there's no core belief behind this. There's no even proper rationale. The only reason we even get to this point is that Sonic ends up deciding to not decides to not quote unquote kill Eggman when he's Tinker, but kill Tinker. That ends up backfiring, and then Sonic just goes, well, yeah, that was I guess that did have negative ramifications, but I'll just dedicate myself to going after you time and time again, and maybe you might turn good. Why do you think he was going to turn good? Because he was acting good from having brain damage? What kind of sense does that make? This whole point is it doesn't. The whole reason they end up doing this shit is because Flynn wanted to do a half-ass attempt of trying to invoke a reason for why Sonic doesn't try to make taking down Eggman his number one priority. And we don't. And the best way to address this is to just have Sonic go, yeah, that was fucking stupid. Let's just get back on point and just pretend that shit didn't happen and move the fuck on. And the games can easily just avoid this because most Sonic fans aren't this in depth or don't really give a shit about the comics. Hell, they're practically ripping into them at this point, which I love. We can just move on.
Because they don't care so much that they talk about it obsessively. They don't care. That's why
I don't mean they don't. Like, yes, there are people on Twitter who do care, but most Sonic fans aren't like reading these comics on a regular basis. They just go, oh, pretty art, oh, some cute characters, and move the fuck on. They're not actually giving a shit about about like this whole discussion about this. I do because I actually care about what this comic is trying to say, and even worse when people try to evoke like this actually makes sense when it fucking doesn't. The best thing to do to actually address this and move forward is to just ignore it and just ignore it, call it, and if you have to address it, just say it's stupid and just pretend it didn't happen. That's the best thing to do. Hold up, let me rephrase. The best thing the games can do is just never address this shit because they have every reason not to. Like, I know a bunch of people try to say Frontiers tries to make the comics canon. Yeah, they also try to say that Styx also exists, and we know she's not coming back, so we can just go and just ignore those two lines of dialogue in the first place. One. And when it comes to the comics, the best way to address this, and if we have to address it, the best thing for Sonic to go is to go, yeah, I was high off of gas because I was acting stupid because there was a gas leak in Tails' house and I was acting stupid for a couple of months. Pretend I just didn't say that. We're just going to pretend that didn't happen and just move on. That's the best thing to do.
Okay, so I think this might be my final statement because I gotta go.
Sure.
Soon. But I think, okay. So comic books. So Mario doesn't really have a long running comics or a long running comic book. I think for that reason, he can sort of get away with not like really discussing the implications of like him he does kill Bowser like regularly. Hold on, let me talk. Just let me hold on. Just let me just finish, please. Okay, I think he can get away with that because the games are very sort of straightforward packages. They aren't really concerned with like the life of an average Toad or something under the tyranny of Bowser or something, or like how I don't know, like a Koopa Troopa feels about like seeing Mario and Bowser like going karting together after like his 34th genocidal campaign or something.
This series isn't either.
No, I'm saying a long-running comic, I think will inevitably
No, you
go
don't.
into
You
those
don't
wrong.
have to.
The reason that I say that, my evidence of that.
No, hold on.
Hold
The reason I'm
on,
trying to get you
dog.
to just skip to Pokemon is because if you're going to go and disqualify Mario, like I'm already seeing where you're going with this. If you're going to disqualify Mario because Mario's like its own little silly video game conflict that doesn't matter, okay, shift to Pokemon. Why's the Pokemon problem? Why is Pokemon with Ash Team Rocket a problem?
Do Team Rocket ever like do horrible, horrendous things? It seems like
Yes!
they just kind of.
No, seriously. They literally.
Pikachu, that's kidnap. It's like
If they're not
silly.
kidnapping Pokemon, they're kidnapping kids. They're robbing people. They are constantly destroying buildings left and fucking right. They do a bunch of. They're not genocidal, but they do cause a lot of fucking destruction. I'm not saying that you have to have a no kill rule, but you can easily vote the same thing. Why doesn't Ash call the cops and put them and try to put them in jail? Why?
Within like
we don't need to address it.
Within the dreamlike world of the Pokemon anime,
Bro,
Team Rocket is presented as more of a nuisance. They're presented as a nuisance. The narrative doesn't really take them seriously, so it's fine. They have a list of crimes for which they could probably be thrown in jail forever for. Probably like in a realistic sense, but like it's not presented that way. So, but in Sonic, it is.
That's my point. That's my
Sonic,
point.
it is.
No, that's my point. No. You keep trying to find excuses to not count these two, but that's literally my point. Don't frame them like this. Don't put the. My whole point is not, oh, we need to find a way to try to address this after the fact. No, my whole point is they shouldn't have done this in the first fucking place. Just ignore it and move on. They're already doing this with the Mel virus anyway. Like literally, after establishing like all this death, all this destruction happened for months. All this death and destruction happened because of the Mel virus. The second ends up that arc is ended, we never addressing the consequences from it. They already do this shit in the first place.
Okay, but there are specific things about Sonic that is not true for Pokemon that makes it difficult to just like ignore. Like Eggman ripped the planet apart. He summoned like an eldritch water demon that probably drowned hundreds of people.
Hold up. No. Then you need to establish why the fuck did this not become a question until IDW brought it up? Because this was never a thing before IDW. No one was complaining about this until IDW brought it up.
I think that they would have.
No, they wouldn't. No, dude. This
okay, now wait. So why was that the case with Batman and Superman and Spider-Man?
No,
why does that happen with?
Was over 20 years old by the time about 20 years old by the time Unleashed dropped. No one was
game franchise without a long-running comic book. Long comic books have different narrative needs than like video games. They have the Sonic video games. Sonic type video games, platformers.
You don't. No. If anything, that's my point. That's literally my point. Don't write this like every other.
But you can't write a running comic book as a video game. You can't.
No. This is the whole reason I brought up Pokemon because that's about as close as we're gonna get without having to try to invoke superhero stuff. Because this series that Sonic has way more in common with the character that as Ash than he does with fucking Batman. So instead of trying to invoke the idea of like, oh, why did he do this? Simple. He's a fucking adventure protagonist. And unless you're going to introduce cops and a whole bunch of people that should be doing the arresting, which that should be their job in the first place, not Sonic's, there's no reason to fucking address it. Just treat, you don't need, like, the whole point is, one, don't try taking him to Archie. Don't try taking him to fucking Archie levels. And two, just don't fucking address it. That's very easy to do. Like, do we need to address, like, the whole, like, one of the whole jokes is about that I get from about this franchise a lot is why don't the guys wear clothes? Do we need to address that in universe?
No, I don't think so.
Exactly. You can make that whole point like, well, every other comic book series, every other series has the characters wearing clothes. Why don't we address that here? Because they're fucking cartoon animals. We don't need to address that. That's the ultimate reason. This is what they're doing. That's from we don't.
I think that people could be sad. I think that people hold on.
Yeah.
Different types of questions. Okay. Are gonna have like different levels of like narrative relevance or like different levels. It's gonna be.
But you can give the exact same fucking answer. He's a goddamn franchise villain. That's the reason. You don't need to address that in the universe. Yes, a bunch of random people are gonna end up asking that question. You don't have to answer all. You don't have to answer all of them. Like some people can even ask, like I've even seen people legitimately ask, why does Sonic have his eyes connecting here? There's no good answer in the universe other than just that's the aesthetic. That was the aesthetic that they wanted. They rolled with that. We don't need to go into.
Okay, wait. I think I need to stop like arguing this way. I think I just need to be like, okay, here's something I could say. It's like it's just there's like so much narrative potential that you just like miss out on when you like go this way. This might be like a preference. This might be a preference thing, but yeah, there is.
It causes more problems
than so much you can't do. There's a whole like gaggle of fans who clearly want more. I know that,
and they're wrong. No. These are also the same people.
So they're just wrong.
No,
maybe.
No. And I see a bunch of people trying to defend about how Surge can be a really good character. We show her beating up Sonic, and they are wrong because there's nothing to gain from this. Because Sonic has nothing to gain from winning or losing or fighting with Surge at this point, and there's no reason to try to fix that. Yes, there's a group of fans who want everything. I know there's a group of fans that wants. Huh?
Hey, I gotta go.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to you later. Thank you very much for showing up today, and we'll talk another time. All right.
Yeah. All right. See you later, boss.
See ya.